Welcome to the Real Film Nerds Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, back to Real Film Nerds Podcast, episode number 291. I think is that. That's where it's at. I don't know. I always forget. I should look it up.
Don't look at me. I don't listen.
And there you go. As we know, that is not the typical co-host. This week, we have the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Mile High Show himself, Matt Santos.
Yay. That's where I drop in the... Since I'm editing this, that's where I'm going to drop in the applause break.
Yeah, right, perfect. Yeah. That's fine. And this week it's a special pod. We're staying local. We're not doing a review this week. I don't know if our guest has ever listened to the podcast. If you haven't, I don't blame you. It's terrible. But Mrs. Helen Stephenson, Prescott Film Festival, Yavapai College, the list of accomplishments goes on and on and on. And she's here to talk with me and Mr. Santos here about the film festival and why you find people should go.
People should go for the experience of watching movies together, the difference that independent films are from studio films. In my mind, a studio film is kind of cut and paste because it's made by a committee. Mm-hmm. And independent films, you have a passion about something, and you make that film. It can be difficult to make an independent film because sometimes it's just you. One of them that we have is some firefighters who decided they wanted to make a documentary about how can we tell people different ways to fight fires, and is there a way to survive living in a forest and not being in a concrete bunker? And so that's what they did, and that's the film is Elemental, reimagining your relationship with wildfire.
That's definitely a very personal film to this area, how much we deal with wildfires.
Definitely.
As we've discussed many times over. But, and what's the name of that one?
It's called Elemental, Redefining Our Relationship with Wildfire.
Where can folks find out more information on the festival itself and find a list of everything? What's the good go-to?
It's PrescottFilmFestival.com. And an amazing website that my husband created.
Links to your socials on there as well, because you also have a Facebook page and Instagram page. They're all listed right there as well.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
12 years?
Yeah, 12
Did I
years.
have right?
Wow. Yeah.
I looked at it earlier. It said started in 2010, and I'm not joking. I couldn't figure out in my head if that meant 12 years or 22 years. I had to...
Do we need to start checking out Las Fuentes, see if they have an opening? Jeez. I mean, I know you're older than me, but you're not that much older.
I just don't have that many fingers.
See what it is.
And I'm not wearing my flip-flops, so I can't use my toes. It's very confusing, man.
It hides it because you're shaved head, so you don't see the gray hair. So when it comes out, then that's when we know how old you really are.
And the wrinkles get filled in because some people use collagen and Botox. I use gravy.
Gravy.
Yeah, it just fills my face out.
That's where I'm going wrong. Yep.
There you go.
Now, are you a country gravy person?
White gravy. Come on.
White gravy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Got it.
Goes better with my chicken.
See, look, we're already embarrassing Helen.
So
what does that have to do with the movies? It's delicious stuff.
Some of my favorite movies are about chicken. How did you get involved with the Yavapai program, and what exactly is your thrust with Yavapai College? Because obviously it's not just to put on this festival every year.
Right.
For 12 years, thank you, I did that in my head. But what are your other roles over at Yavapai?
So the film festival was a volunteer gig for the first 10 years. So the college, we donated it. My husband Don and I donated it to the college 2 years ago, because we really wanted it to live on beyond us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got other things we want to do, and how else can you do that unless you have some benefactor that's going to write a huge check?
Yeah.
You look for something where it fits. And it's always, since I started it, I thought it would be a fit with Yavapai College, because I knew when the film program started at Yavapai College in Sedona in 2001, I would go out there. I've gone to the Sedona Film Festival since it started. And I just knew there could be a fit there. And so in 2008, I started to research, how do you do a film festival? And it was a big puzzle because there were only DVDs. There weren't streaming videos in 2008.
Right.
There wasn't a way to score the films. How do you decide what film do you want in a festival? So I went to Patrick Schweiss at the Sedona Film Festival, and he was really kind and mentored me basically and said, okay, every time, we would research and then we would do questions. And after his film festival, he'd let us come up and we would give him a list of questions. So, so that was hugely helpful. And then we started the monthly series. And we did the monthly series when it started was at the Frontier Village Cinema 10.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave us a room. It was the first digitally projected film in Prescott, maybe in the county.
Wow.
and my husband and my nephew, Jared Haxton, figured out how to make it work in a theater. So they would give us a theater, and they would let us just keep everything in a locked room. And so we did that for a few months. We would do it every Wednesday. We figured out that was the slowest day for movie theaters for that particular theater.
Huh.
And they just let us come in for free. They just kept whatever the snack bar made, and that was great. So we did that a few months, and then we got to this certain film, and they said, oh, by the way, we're closing, and this is your last time.
Oh.
So we scrambled, and I called Gary Chartier over at the Yavapai College, and he said, oh, you're in a bind. We'll help you out. So they helped us out, and then we decided in 2010, okay, we think we get this. We're ready for an annual festival.
Make it official.
And we had no idea if anybody was going to come. We just, okay, these are our films, and it's like I got a whole bunch of films. I mean, we didn't need half the number of films that I programmed, but it was like, I'm so excited. And my husband's like, okay, yeah, whatever. And so we were at the time, there was a gal named Jenny, and we were at what she called the CVB. And that was in the old bank building that now has Dancing Skeleton in it.
Okay, yeah, over here on the corner of Cortez.
Yeah. So they let us use that space as an office. And we had the downstairs where the vaults were. And so, okay, we're going to have this film festival. And, people started covering it and they started talking about it. And we're just printing the programs as we think we need them because they were so expensive. We're doing this out of pocket and we're not millionaires. Yeah. So we would print a few at a time with a printer in town. And then people started coming in. And it was like, wait a minute, people are actually going to come to a film festival here. We couldn't believe it. So we had our other volunteer, his name was John Bigelow. He was downstairs in the basement, and we were printing off tickets on cardstock and using a paper cutter to print them up as fast as we could. And it just worked, and it's like, okay, well, let's just keep doing this, and this nonprofit thing and grants, and I'd never written grants before.
That's a full-time job in itself.
It definitely is. Yeah. Yes. So that was kind of the launch of it. And then getting involved with the college, they were doing something like these educational deep dives called symposiums. Mm-hmm. And they were doing one that was on the Civil War, and they wanted to add film to that. And so I volunteered to be the film part of that. And while I was volunteering to do that, the person in charge of the college film school quit. And so I spent that weekend doing a tabbed notebook on where I thought the film program could go. And that's how, in 2013, I started working at Yavapai College.
Very nice.
So you almost made your own job.
Pretty much. I say I volunteered my way into the job.
How did you force that other person out, though? What was your technique? So for the festival, is it screenings and just the enjoyment of film? Do you do workshops? What else is involved with the Prescott Film Festival?
Sometimes we do workshops. This year we're doing film talks because there were three things that I just meet amazing people through the Film and Media Arts program at the college. One of them is going to do one on a talk on the Arizona Film Tax Credit.
Yes.
Another one is on the use of trailers and how businesses and companies can use trailers. And he's a member of the Television Academy, and he's in Prescott now. And
Very
these
cool.
people are looking for workers. So.
And that's fascinating because we'll watch a movie that's set, the tagline has to do with Arizona or wherever, and then you look at it, filmed in Vancouver. It's so odd that, especially in some major metro areas, New York is not always New York. Some shows, obviously, and movies, obviously, really film in the locations, but for a lot of times, it's location scouts finding places that could double as, and there is so many lost dollars to the film industry, especially in an area where we have so many different from the deep desert to the metro areas of Phoenix and Tucson to the older ghost county type areas of Jerome, the beauty of Sedona. Crews can come out and film a movie or a TV show in Arizona, travel an hour and a half, and it looks like you're on the other side of the world. Right. And that needs to be capitalized on. And then, as you mentioned, the support of that, trailers, caterers, things of that nature.
That's the thing, though, it used to be capitalized on.
Yeah.
I don't want to get political, but growing up, I grew up here. Mr. Santos here, he'll say it in a minute. He grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. But I grew up in Arizona. So I grew up in southern Arizona. So there was a lot of films that were filmed down there in and around that place. Old Tucson studios had two different studios.
For decades, that was the hub for Westerns.
Yeah. And then it all just fell off because of the tax credit. And then we became, you know what? There's a state next to us, close enough. It's called New Mexico. We'll go there.
Yeah.
And that happened when I basically went to college. Because that was one of the biggest thrills for me growing up as a kid, was going to Old Tucson Studios for my birthday. They did a nightmare horror Hollywood thing, like they call it now at Universal's Hollywood Horror Nights or whatever. They did that in Tucson.
Or
they
as
started
Matt knew it, prom night.
30 years ago. Yeah, they did that 30 years ago when I was growing up. They started it at Old Tucson, and it's movie accurate, everything, and I just loved it.
Well, how many old Ford movies from Monument Valley?
Yes.
Well, Oklahoma was shot in Cochise County.
There you go.
But there's so much
that's
diversity.
Right. You're from Cochise County, too.
Yes, I am.
I'm not from as small a town, though.
Oh, where are you from?
Sierra Vista.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Close enough.
Close, very close.
I went to Douglas because that's where the county fair was, Douglas.
That's right. The county fair was... Okay, you may be younger than me. At that time, for the county fair, you would, on the Friday before the fair started, all of the kids in all the schools would get on a bus, and the bus drivers would just drop them off at the fair.
That happened. Although I was a little sheltered, I went to a private school until I was in middle school, high school. And so we took vans, parents' cars.
I went to several schools, but that's a different podcast. But that is very interesting to have a film talk, I guess, kind of model out like a TED Talk kind of thing.
Yeah.
On how to capitalize, how to utilize the resources in any given area. Because there are so many, everything from lodging to transportation to housing, trailers, catering, craft services, all that stuff. There's just so many opportunities for a community, for a municipality to capitalize on a film crew there. And periodically, since I've been here for almost 20 years, there have been a few things filmed in this area, but very short, very quick, one-day shoots. They come up from a different area or they do some exteriors and that's it. But It is exciting. Having grown up in the San Francisco Bay Area.
There we go. On cue.
We used to cruise around and go to San Francisco when they were filming Streets of San Francisco and things like that, and just watch them film. It was a day out, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And to be able to see that in a smaller community like Prescott, like the Verde Valley or something, would be a fun treat to do. So hopefully this film talk will generate some of our local leaders to search those out. I know in recent years this area of the state has been trying to court some. I just don't know how successful they've been.
Well, Helen can probably talk to it more than I can, but that tax credit coming back, huge for the state.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. It is. it's really going to go into effect. It goes legally into effect in January, but the Arizona State Commerce Authority asked for and received a year to write the rules.
Oh, nice.
So in reality, it's going to be 2024 that it'll really get going.
But as film companies and producers are searching out locations, I mean, that's a long process anyway.
It's a long process.
So knowing that's coming up is a good thing. So what are some of the big highlights for films coming in this year for the 2022 festival?
Yeah, what's some of your favorites? Because I know you probably watched all of them.
I did watch all of them. I spent 7 days a week watching movies this summer.
I'm
So
jealous.
has Matt.
I'm jealous. No, I wish I had that kind of time. I'm lucky to get one movie a week. And my movie for the review for next week, I watched last night. So I went to that's why when you were saying Wednesdays, I usually don't go Wednesdays. I usually go Thursday nights to the theaters. I saw The Woman King for next week. And that's... I liked it quite a bit. I know it has a lot of controversy around it, but it's a fun one. It's really, really good. Viola Davis is amazing, though.
So the director of that, Gina Price Blythewood, I'm in this group called University Film and Video Association, and she was speaking at a conference in Los Angeles, and I just was driven to go and hear her speak because she's just so interesting to me.
Nice.
And so I went, and I never do this, but I asked for a photo with her, and my husband took a photo. So it's on my
that's
Facebook
awesome.
page now.
I saw that
I love
posted.
that.
Yeah.
And I remember saying,
Love that.
I never do this, but Yeah.
I just was so inspired by her. She's just,
very nice.
she's great.
A phenomenal job with the film. I really, really enjoyed it. I try not to get political on my shows and stuff. There's a lot of hate surrounding that film because it's historical, but it's not, but it is because they tweaked a lot of things. I still think it was fun. So I encourage, if you haven't seen it, to go watch it.
I haven't seen
It's
it.
very good.
And when people say that, I always say, is it a documentary?
No, it's not. That's one of my arguments that I will probably have is it's not. It's fiction.
Right.
Let
Yeah.
it be fiction.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. So the other thing back on the film tax credit for a minute.
Sure.
I'm working with Matthew Earl Jones, the Arizona Film Commissioner, on getting production assistants trained, because what he's seeing in the future and what other producers have told him is, hey, we can bring in our own cinematographer and that's cost effective, but production assistants, not so much. So he is trying to get. He's working with Yavapai College and 3 other colleges to train as many production assistants as he can. So they've got...
what a great entry into the industry.
Oh,
Perfect.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Super. Yes. So that's the other thing we're doing for the college.
Is there an age limit on that?
I just remember when they...
There's not.
Yeah, Santos,
Any
your
age.
new career, or maybe get Anthony going?
No, I was going to kick my son in
Yeah,
there. He's almost
yeah.
working age.
He's old. Well,
I told you, I don't want to leave the house.
he's 12, right? 13?
13.
13, yeah, that's
Oh.
working. Yep, he needs to get to work.
I got to do it quick, though, because in another year and a half, he's not going to want to speak to me. So
Yeah.
But that's one of those things I have to say. When they reopened the film office for Arizona, that made me very excited because that was a sad day when they closed it. And it was just like, okay, well, they're never making films in Arizona again.
that came about from Bob Parsons.
Yep.
He donated part of the money
That's
to
great.
start that film office.
nice.
He's from GoDaddy, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are some highlights for this year? Starting, and again, it starts
Yeah, we
whenever
still
you're
haven't gotten that done
whenever
yet.
you're downloading this. It's going to be about 5 days from when we're recording this. So a couple
Mine
of
will be
days
up like tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm not giving you the file. I'm putting mine up first.
I do what I want. Oh wait, if you have the file,
What
I'm
do you-
kind of SOL.
So what are some ones that really got you excited this year?
So I really like I Mordecai, the opening night film. It's a comedy, and somehow they pulled this off. And it's based on the guy's dad, his actual family. His family died in the Holocaust, but he's just got this attitude of, okay, I'm going to have this good life in Florida, and it stars Judd Hirsch and Carol Kane.
Awesome.
I know.
Great cast.
Yeah, and he's stuck in his ways, like some older gentleman might be.
Look at him
And
for.
he has a flip phone.
Yes, that's you, Santos.
He's always had a flip phone, and the flip phone finally breaks. And his son drags him kicking and screaming to an iPhone store, and that opens up his world. And it's just really a sweet, funny movie with heart.
What a great premise. I like that.
I really liked that one. There's one that kept me thinking about it after I'd watched it. And it's like, I kept thinking about it for days. And it's called Chess Story and / The Royal Game, because the distributors are in the middle of changing the title.
Yeah.
So some of the things said Royal Game and some of the things said Chess Story, so we're right in the middle. But it's a historical drama about a gentleman who is in Austria when the Nazis come, and he is a financier. And he's got the code numbers to the bank accounts in his head.
Wow.
And so the Nazis stick him in a hotel by himself, and they think, okay, we're going to break him.
Yeah.
And it's not like violent torture or anything. It's mind games that they play with him, and hence Chess Story. And I just kept thinking about that for a long time
nice.
afterwards.
Wow, that sounds like a great film.
Yeah.
Wow.
That one's really good. I'm really happy. I love cats, and so I don't have a cat, but I love cats. So we have one called Cat Daddies about men.
Is this a doc?
Who love,
Yes.
Yeah, it's a doc. Men who love cats. And we're going to have a cat adoption before and
nice.
after the film.
So a good
cool.
tie-in with another organization.
Right.
Oh, great,
Probably
great.
Yeah.
Yavapai Humane Society or someone like
It's
that.
Miss Kitty's Cat House.
Oh, yes, she's
and
very good, yeah.
United Animal Friends
Yeah,
are coming.
perfect.
So, yeah. So we're
Very
really excited
nice.
about that. Yeah.
Again, showing how the community involvement in this festival has really helped it grow and solidify over the 12 years, I did that in my head, that the Prescott Film Festival has been in existence. Great.
We've gotten a lot of support over the years, for sure. We could not have done it without. There's grants that we get. There's donations we get. It's really a three-pronged stool. It's donations, ticket sales, and grants.
What's the process for the submission? When do you? Because this happens every fall in September. What's the so it runs from now? You said the 27th.
27th to October 2nd, I believe.
Okay, October
Yeah.
2nd. Do you then start on the 2023 festival on October 3rd, or is it how long? What's the prep work? The review process, how do you get your submissions?
So I would normally, before streaming happened, we would, be jumping right on it. But now we jump on the grants afterwards, because this will
Gotcha.
end, and now I've got to go to X, Y, and Z and start writing grants. And then I have to write the grant reports.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the college will do part of that now. But
Nice.
yeah, and
Good
that is
partnership. I bet your husband's happy about
Yes.
that. Yeah. So it sounds like was it your nephew who was helping you as well?
Yeah, Jared.
And your husband?
Yeah.
And you, kind of a family project to get this rolling?
Kind of, yeah. There were us three really at the core, and then Ron Hammer has been our board chair forever. Dave Shoemaker is another board person. My friend Ellen Harp has been helping me with marketing since forever. Let's see, Jared, Sean Van Heck, who owns the Granite Back Alley Garage. He is like, he'll look at a film and know what it should be rated, and if our audience will like it. He
Gotcha.
is precision on board.
So
for
a
that.
finger on the pulse of the community.
Yeah,
to
Well,
see
and
what's
that's-
really
yeah,
is.
very
That's
nice.
the question. Do you cater your choices for the film festival based on Prescott, the surrounding area, or just people that are coming to the film festival?
So it's kind of everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we do is Matt had asked about how we get the movies. So we get the movies in three different ways. We have the open submissions, which is through Film Freeway, and I have a director of curation. His name is Mike Simone in Phoenix, and he goes to all these film festivals, and he brings me back lists and trailers, and says, okay, these are the ones that I think might be a fit for Prescott.
Right.
Because really most of our audience is from the Yavapai County.
Yeah.
We get most of the out-of-town people are from Tucson or California.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Phoenix, for some reason, doesn't come very often.
Huh.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting, even just this slice of Yavapai County, Prescott in general. I'm learning more of this, working with some other productions and with the Elks Theater. There is Prescott, and there's what people think about Prescott, and what has been traditionally Prescott, and then there's the arts in Prescott that are a whole different ball game. And when you do a live public event like a film festival or any type of a show, a showing of some kind, you get a nice blend of the old guard and the artistic community. And those are vastly different sides of the same coin. And it's interesting how those two sides blend. And I see that in some live comedy where it's like, this is not going to go over well with half of the crowd. And then surprisingly, it's like, oh, they all enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Same thing with film. You may think this is what's going to really be attracted to the old guard Prescottonians, and you see the other side enjoying it just as much. And that's what Prescott's an odd duck in that aspect.
Yeah, it really is. And we see that especially with what we call our horse film. So every every year we try to get a horse film. We find one that's good. When we had Harry and Snowman, we sold out that 1,000-seat theater.
Nice.
Because that was an amazing film.
That must have been an experience. That many people in there.
It was fun.
Wow.
We did that for Wishman too.
Yeah.
Frank Shankowitz's movie.
Well, that movie was great.
He
It's
did
really,
it
really good.
Yeah, it was. It was really good.
Yeah, I miss Frank. He was a good dude.
Yeah.
So over the years, 12 years, did that without counting. 12
You
years
sure?
of doing this.
I saw you looking at your fingers.
I have a note written on my thing. What is there any one or two films that really stick out where you go, I like this, I didn't know if it was going to be successful, and it was just wildly accepted? Or anything that really shocked you is like, I had no idea how good this was going to be?
I think we've talked about the two films that really my daughter Danielle found Harry and Snowman. She told me about it forever. She said, there's this book and they're going to make it into a documentary and we're going to have to get it. So she was following it and feeding it to me. And I said, okay, honey, you can do the announcement for the film and before it starts, And so she goes out on stage and it's sold out and it's just unbelievable.
Wow.
So that I didn't know that would happen. And I thought that Frank's film would pack the house.
Yeah.
I did. And that was the sweetest ending of that was I had to fight them. I had to fight Frank to say, you need to do it in the pack because there's got to be enough seats for everybody.
Yeah.
They wanted to do it someplace else. And I said, you can, but... And so he finally capitulated and said, oh, okay. And then when word kind of got out that we were going to screen it, a woman contacted me and said, hey, my daughter's a Wish kid, and she survived.
Oh, man.
And she really wants to thank him personally.
Fantastic.
Oh, wow.
So the movie happened, and so I'm up there with Frank just trying to Q&A, and I'm like nudging the mom, and the daughter's really nervous. She doesn't speak in public ever. And she asked me, can I write everything down? I said, honey, just write it down and read it. It doesn't matter. She walks out there, and he was just bowled over. And he said he always, when a Wish kid comes up, he always puts his cowboy hat on them. And he did that for her. And it was just a moment that I'll never forget. And that was really rewarding. And yeah, God bless him. I miss Frank, too. He's an amazing human being.
He was.
Yeah. He invited all the film students out. He kept to the shoot when he was shooting Wishman. He put me on the list to get the and I would just get the schedule every day. It's like, okay, can anybody come? And so glad I went and took the time to take the kids out there.
Yeah, that was one of those special ones because Frank lived in the community.
Yeah.
Basically from here, not but wasn't, because he was mostly stationed over in Cottonwood. But he made the film here. I know it was probably a massive struggle, but he did it here.
Nice.
He called in every favor, he told me.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think at least 95% of that film was made in and around the Prescott area.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's so much fun to see your town on the big screen.
Yeah.
There's something about it that gives you a little thrill. And I heard from a newspaper reporter in Peoria this week, and he asked me about how shooting a film someplace could make it into an iconic place. And I said, well, yeah, and that's tourism. I said, that's the other thing that film in a community brings is tourism, because people still go to that cornfield And, it's like
Field of Dreams.
in Field of, yeah, what is
Well,
that?
now they have a full-on baseball stadium built there that they have a game every year there now.
Yeah.
I
Which is
tell you what,
wild.
this is something that drives my son nuts when we're watching TV or a movie. I've gotten addicted to having my phone with me because while we're watching something, especially things, I'm kind of obsessed with 1940s L.A. and San Francisco. San Francisco because I know it, but L.A. just because so many of the great TV shows and movies that I grew up watching were there. So whenever they mention an address, I'll look it up, or I'll go on IMDb and look where they filmed, where they actually. And that's why I'm all excited. I go, yeah, it's not. It's Vancouver. That's not. You're lying to me. But I'll go in and then I'll start Googling the maps. I'm watching the movie, but I got to see it. And especially when I see, like I'll be watching a movie that's in San Francisco and they'll reference a corner that doesn't exist. I'm thinking, those streets never touch. They stop lying. But I get fascinated with those. And then when we did a trip to LA for work a couple months ago, and one afternoon, that's what we did. We cruised around, and I was showing him the police building, from Dragnet, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he was loving the Santa Monica Pier, it's from Rockford Files.
So my husband was born and raised in Los Angeles, and he's a little bit older than me, and they still had the red car.
Oh, yeah.
And he would take the train. His parents lived in around Long Beach, and Mom would put him. He was 4 years old. Put him on the train, send him to Los Angeles by himself. And Grandma met him at the train, and that's what it was.
You do that now, and you'll not only be on TV, it'll be on the news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we decided we need to do something to distract us during the pandemic. So we watched every single episode of Perry Mason
Wow.
in Los Angeles, and sometimes they shot outside.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we did. Look it up. Does the building still exist? And it was just
Go check it out. Yeah, there's a couple famous Instagram accounts where there's a young guy that's a huge film buff, and he'll travel the country
Nice.
to go find these locations of these famous films, houses, public property. He doesn't disturb private property if it's homes, but he'll take a picture of himself in front of the house and be like, here it is. It's
Very
still here.
nice.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it is, but
So outside of the festival or inside of it, either way, what is, in your mind, Helen, the best movie that nobody knows about?
Oh, that nobody knows about.
Star Wars.
One day I'll watch it, Matt. One day I will watch
This is why we're not really friends.
I hate him.
That nobody
What's
knows
the
about.
unsung hero? I like to ask you, now we're going to name drop here. Celebrity in the house, Nick Canuel is right behind you at the bar. And I've had him on my podcast several times. One of the best musicians you'll ever meet, and he's right here in Prescott. I like to ask musicians, who do you love that nobody knows about? So when people are either writers or artists, in your case, in the film industry, what's a movie that you absolutely love that when you mention to people, they go, I've never heard of that?
And I'm surprised people haven't heard about this movie, but it's Kubo and the Two Strings.
I will make note of that. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
That makes two of us.
Excellent. Okay.
Great. Now I'm gonna have to go watch it.
She just called us dumb.
I don't think so. I don't think that she called us dumb, but
And that's because
all right. Never mind.
Actually, I did.
no, not at all. Because it's stop motion animation.
Okay.
But it's got George Takei is one of the voices in it.
Nice.
And it is this lovely story it's based on a Japanese folktale. And the stop motion animation, the people are in Northern California that do these films.
Yeah.
They did Caroline, and they've done several films. And they hand make every little piece of this film.
Wow.
It is absolutely a work of art.
And it's based on a
Japanese
folk
folktale.
Nice. What's the gist of it?
It's
Spoilers.
yeah.
Well, don't tell me how it ends. Don't
Well-
tell me how the guy dies at the end. Oh wait, I'm sorry.
The theme song is "While My Guitar Gently Weeps."
Ooh.
So with and a
Enough
beautiful
said. Got to look it up.
beautiful
Okay,
rendition
great,
of it.
great.
So, and after you watch the movie, look at the behind the scenes YouTubes.
Ooh, nice.
Because they like there's this one scene where these women have these they fly also, and they have it's kind of a fantasy. They have, well, kind of a fantasy.
Yeah.
I guess if women are flying with wings and feathers, I guess it's a fantasy.
It's just not hanging out in the right parks. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
No comment.
But they have feather wings, and they show putting each and every feather
Oh,
in the
my
right
goodness.
place. I mean, it's a work of art.
So this is 100% stop motion, not CGI, because there's a lot of blends and things
There's
like
a
that.
tiny. It's mostly like probably 90% stop motion.
Oh, my
All
goodness.
this, yeah.
The
The only
time
things they
involved.
did to blend it, I mean, they did the water in a really cool method,
Yeah.
but they did a little bit of CGI, I think, for the water
Yeah,
scenes.
did the production aspect of it, but the gist of it is all, oh, how neat.
They made the water go. They come up with things that's a combination of engineering and art that is out of this
Fantastic.
world.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how did film become so big in your life? What was it? Were your parents into movies? Did you go as kids all the time? No.
I
were
was
deprived?
I was deprived.
Oh,
I-
my goodness.
I was born and
Poor
raised
Helen.
in Cochise County, and when I was young, we only had the drive-in, and the drive-in was only open in the summer, and so you got the B movies in the drive-in.
Yeah.
And then one day there was a musical came. The Lyric Theater is in Bisbee, and that was 25 miles away. But my parents, we were not very wealthy. Let's just say. So my
Well, you
gap-
lived in a Bisbee suburb, so
Yeah, that's true.
Enough
I
said.
wouldn't
No.
call Douglas
No,
a Bisbee
Douglas
suburb.
is not a
Douglas
Bisbee.
is its own thing. Yeah.
Yep. So gas was, to give you a frame of reference, we would drive over to Mexico to get gas because it was a nickel a gallon.
Wow.
And but they didn't want to spend the money to go
Yeah.
to Bisbee or any place. You know, we went to church 3 times a week, but that was it. So this movie called The Flower Drum Song,
Yes.
which is, I don't know, it would never play now, was in Bisbee. And so that was the first movie I saw, was at the Bisbee Lyric.
First in a theater, indoor theater.
Yeah, well, we didn't have television.
Yeah, but you said you did drive-in. You had a
There
drive-in.
was the drive-in, but I was pretty young when The Flower Drum Song came out.
Gotcha,
So
okay.
it probably was the first movie I saw because the drive-in
Nice.
things were like horror movies and
Gotcha.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
cheapo.
yeah. I mean, when I was a
B-films,
teenager,
yeah.
we would go. You know,
Now,
I see them.
young seeing that, did that grab you, or was it just the event of seeing it and going?
The event of seeing it was really cool, but then a few years later,
Yeah, what grabbed you? What was the film that grabbed you?
Mary Poppins.
Really?
Yes, because I was a little girl. I can't remember how old I was, but I still have my Mary Poppins doll.
Oh,
Wow.
neat.
But we were visiting my sister in Texas, and I'm one of 6, and
Yeah.
I had 3 older sisters and then a younger brother and sister. And so we go, most of us, to Texas, and we visited my sister, and they decided to take us to see Mary Poppins. And that, I could not believe how magic that was.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
The
That's
penguins
a
are
wonderful
dancing.
film. Yep.
There's a cartoon and a real person. You know, how is
did that
that
happen?
happening? So, yeah.
Now you're hanging out at the right
Okay, so
parks.
I got questions. This is one that I talk about on the podcast with my co-host all the time. He and I grew up loving films. I remember watching Mary Poppins as a young kid. We watched movies growing up. The theater I went to, maybe you might have been gone by then, but R&M Cinema. It was right downtown Sierra Vista, 3 screens, horrible seats falling apart.
Yeah.
Now it's a church, but anyways, that's where I went. I saw everything there.
Okay.
But the discussion that me and my co-hosts have a lot, we both feel that it's important to go and have that experience sitting in the theater, watching it on the big screen, not being distracted by your phone. And that's dying. That's clearly dying.
Yeah.
COVID's gone. Theaters are opened up. People are just not returning. Do you think theaters are still going to have a place in this world soon? Or do you think streaming is finally going to wipe them completely out? My theory is that we're still going to continue having theaters, but it's going to be more like going to like a play or going to a bigger performance, and it's not going to be $10 to get in. It's going to be a lot more than that, and I'm afraid of that.
I think films are still going to exist in the theaters, but it's going to have to be events.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I remember going to see Top Gun when it first came out. I was in LA at the time. I went to a big screen theater in Santa Monica so I could see it with the best sound and picture possible.
Yep.
I was not going to wait for that to come out on DVD. I'm going to go see Top Gun in a big theater, and I went to Harkins and saw Top Gun. And I don't regret a minute of it. It was a blast, and it was so much fun to do that. And that's what we kind of try to do with the film festival, is make everything an event. The cat adoption before and after. We're going to show Grease and do a sing-along.
Perfect.
Nice.
And I have Nanette Hofer, who's she's the musical theater instructor at the professor at the college, and she's going to be in front of everybody and doing that. We've got a little prop bag that you get as you come in.
Oh, nice.
And so that's an experience. We have for the horse film this year is called The Long Rider, and we're doing an experiment and showing it twice because. Usually we just show it one time, and usually the horse people come, and that's the only film they come to see. But this film is so good. I'm afraid of horses. I mean, I have ridden a horse once, and my daughter's totally into horses. My youngest, she's actually my stepdaughter, but she's totally into horses. And we were in Colorado. It's gorgeous mountain, forest and trails and stuff. And it's like, okay, I'll ride a horse. And let's do this experiment, and I'll ride this. And she does like all kinds of horse things.
Yeah.
Since she was 2, her mom had her on a horse. So we get on the horse, and I kid you not, I remembered getting on commercial horses when putting my kids on commercial horses at the at a park in Los Angeles, and there was a seatbelt. You got a seatbelt. So I get on the horse, and I said, "Where's the seatbelt?"
Where do you put your quarter?
And they said,
Those are the horses I rode, yeah.
there was no seatbelt, and now I'm scared to death.
Yeah.
And then it was like the longest hour of my life. I just couldn't wait to be over, because the horse is this wide, and I'm showing like yards wide, and the trail is this wide. It's like a foot wide for the trail. So it's like, so it's done. So I'm not a horse person. So it's like, okay, we got to get a horse film. So I found this film and looked at the trailer. I thought, wow, that looks really good. So I talked to the filmmaker, and he sent me the screener. And I was, so I started to look at it, and then I sent it to my husband because he puts it into the review system, which we haven't gotten to yet. But there's a review system we do where people that are trained, we have trained people, they go onto this system that he built, and they watch the movies and score them. And he said, okay, I just got this movie you sent me. How far are you watching this now? And I said, yeah. And he says, how far are you into it? And I said, about 10 minutes. And he said, well, let's watch it together. It's really good. It was really good because
Nice.
it's also a story of adventure. So it's the Long Rider, it's a designation. If you ride a horse from this distance to that distance, it's so many miles. And this gentleman rode a horse from Canada to Brazil.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
Think of all
I don't want to drive that far.
think of all the borders you have to cross.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Think of the drug cartels.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a huge adventure, and so we decided that the film, normally we have our horse film on Saturdays at 4:00. That's the time the horse people like. But he could only come on Tuesday or, on a certain day of the week. And let's see, I don't want to tell the wrong day. So he can come on, it is on Wednesday, September 28th. So he's flying, the director producer is flying in from Canada, and he's going to do a Q&A after the film.
Oh, nice.
So we're thinking, okay, we've got our film people for this date, and then we'll have our horse people for the other date. So we'll see how it goes. We haven't done that before. So, but it's a really good film, and we're just really thrilled that he's coming to share it with us.
I was really fortunate. My mom grew up in the 30s and 40s, and Saturday was their movie day. They went in at 9 o'clock in the morning, paid their nickel, and they came out, it was dark.
Wow.
So that was their big treat. Every week they went to the theater. So growing up, That's what we did. And it was always, to Matt's question of the going away of a theater, to me it's like going to, there's two things that I never get tired of. Walking through the dark tunnel, the covered area of a ball field, and then coming out and seeing the green of a baseball field.
Yeah.
It's not the same for walking into an arena for basketball. It's not the same for a football field. When you walk in to the Church of Baseball and it's there, there's nothing like sitting in a dark theater, pitch black, and then the screen lights up and the previews start, the trailers start. And it's time to be quiet. You don't have, well, growing up, there was no phone, but you can't stop it. You got to make sure I'm going to get my snacks. I'm going to get my soda, my popcorn. I'm going to use the bathroom. Because once those lights go out, I'm not leaving this seat. And that, for a child, my son's 13, growing up in the TV generation anyway, we tried to do that. He was the only 4-year-old that I knew that could quote John Wayne's Hatari. That was still is his favorite movie. Came out in '62, I think. John Wayne movies he loves. He loves Bogart. He didn't see a modern cartoon till he was about 7 or 8.
So he's basically the youngest old man you will ever meet.
Now he's starting to like things like this Trek Wars movie that Matt likes.
Wars.
I don't know, whatever it's called. And he's like now a normal 13-year-old kid. I miss my 40-year-old midget that used to live in our house. But when I took him to his...
I'm 40 and I like the Trek Wars.
When I took him to the first theater movie at Harkins, I don't even remember what the movie was.
Oh, dude,
But
I remember you called and told me.
5 minutes into it, he goes,
yeah.
Bob, can you pause it? I was like, no, we can't pause it. I'm sorry, kiddo. But now we don't get a chance too often, but when we do go to the movies, to the theater, it is, for us, it's an event because we don't go every week. We used to when I was a kid. But now it just, life happens. So now when we go to a theater, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend of mine who gifted us this massive TV that's in our
No
in our
idea
family.
who that was.
Matt gave us this huge, I don't know, it's 75 inch, I think,
Yeah,
65
it's
inch.
75, yeah.
And it's on a wheel stand. So what we have done in the past is put it up against a sliding glass and we'll sit out in the yard. So it's our version of a drive-in. I have not been able to take them down in the valley. Glendale still has their drive-in.
Yeah, I think that's the only one. Yeah.
And we're going to take the pickup truck. We're going to all lay in the back of the pickup truck with a sleeping bag, and it's on our plan. We haven't had a chance to do it yet, but
well, you got to have the right movie for that.
yeah.
And I'm sure there's several coming out.
But to go into
Hopefully.
the theater is such an experience. Every time I go into a theater, for me, it's an event. I love doing it. And I really hope that does not go away because I, unfortunately, now ingest most of my movies and television while I'm working, while I'm editing and rendering or doing pictures or whatever.
Well, yeah.
So I do them in pieces, like 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. It's very rare that I get to sit down and watch a movie from start to finish.
Right.
And that's the only way it should be done.
Well,
And
there's your excuse then to go every week. Is then
Yeah.
take that 2 hours,
unfortunately,
2.5 hours, and just turn off your phone and be with your son.
Unfortunately, my free time is usually between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m.
That's fine.
So there's not too many
talk to
theaters
Harkins.
that are open.
I love Harkins. I don't want to, slam our other movie theater, but I've gotten. I'll make the extra journey to go to Harkins because one thing I like that they do, they haven't done it a lot, and I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but Harkins really tries to get the independent films in their theaters. There might not be a ton. There'll be maybe 1, 2 at a time, but that's more than anybody else is doing, and I love that because
Right.
I will go and see those independent films because I can't get them anywhere else.
Well, I call them if something's coming up and I see that it's screening in Phoenix, and I say, "Hey, can we get that here?" And once in a while, we get it here.
Nice.
Yeah. So you're talking about the experience of movies. We have the final event of the festival is a silent film with live accompaniment.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
So
Those were the films you grew up on.
so
I was patting Matt's back, not Helen's.
Oh man.
I don't
Just
know.
to clarify, no
Just
one's
to
here.
clarify, yeah.
I love talkies.
I know, I'm terrible. I'm sorry.
There was an old theater, an old movie house, the Lorenzo, and it was because like I said, I grew up in an area. There was
San Francisco Bay Area?
There was 5 theaters in my small town.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
and each one
man.
had its own flavor.
That's
but
heaven.
the Lorenzo in the next little town over was a single screen old movie house from the teens and the 20s, and when I was growing up, it was run down. And that was the retro theater where you can go in. You know, they would do the Midnight Rocky Horror.
Oh.
They would do things like that. But every once in a while, they would do a Three Stooges marathon that would start at midnight, and we would get out when the sun was up.
Wow.
And they would have raffles and contests and things. It was fantastic.
Fun.
But it was a lot of fun. And then they would do the kiddie matinee and it was 50 cents to get in. And it was to drop the kids off in the morning. My mom would go because that's where she grew up doing. But a lot of families would just drop the kids off at 9 o'clock in the morning, then pick them up at 3 in the afternoon. And it was just a madhouse. But it was, I loved going into that type of, in Palo Alto, the Stanford Theater was great. That's where I first saw Citizen Kane on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
It was where I first saw the Maltese Falcon on the big screen. These are movies I'd watched on my
Yeah.
television growing up, and then afterwards on VHS and on DVD.
Well,
Yeah.
but
Again,
to see
you're
them
just
on the
talking.
big,
It's events.
To be-
Those are events.
yeah,
For you,
to-
even, something like Citizen Kane. Like,
Yeah.
if that was on the big screen, I'd go and see it just
Oh.
to see it on the big screen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of even 80s and 70s films that, Jaws. Jaws is a great one. They re-released Jaws recently in the theaters just to
Yep.
be able to see it on the big screen.
now that came, correct me, 75 when that came out?
Something like that.
Or
74.
77. It was either 75 or 77.
It is 77.
Was it
I don't
77?
remember. Yeah, I
so
don't
I was
remember.
11 when that came out.
I was not existent.
I was too young. I was too young to see Jaws on the big screen.
Wow.
And we went out opening weekend,
Yeah.
and because I'm the youngest of 6, because of the project of getting us all in the car. And anytime we went anywhere, to a ball game, to the movies, at least 1 or 2 neighborhood kids came with us. We'd pack in the station, so we never got anywhere on time. We would typically walk in during the previews or just before them. And for me, like I said, part of the fun was to sit there and then have the lights come down.
Yep.
Only seats left, first and second row.
Yep.
So to see Jaws at 11 years old in the first row, second row, was terrifying to say the least.
Yeah.
My sister was 13. No, let's see. If I was 11, she was 17 because she's old and never listens to the
God.
show. But she was so terrified. She wanted to leave the theater and was afraid to turn her back on the screen.
Whoa.
And for years after, she would not go swimming. And we were a beach family. We would go to Santa Cruz twice a month during the spring and summer. She would not step foot in the water. She wouldn't go in a swimming pool. For a while, we had a big roast in our freezer, and she was afraid to open the freezer because, go get me some ice cream. I'm not looking at that roast. She was terrified. It was great. It was fantastic.
Well, Helen, go ahead. Finish what you were saying earlier before Santos
Oh,
interrupted.
sorry. Told you, I'm all over the place.
Well, what you were saying made me pop into my brain that in Douglas, when I was, I think in junior high or high school, late junior high, we did get a 2-plex. It's called the Alco Theater, but it was a metal building.
Ooh.
So you can
How's that for
imagine.
Yeah, that
I
must have
know
been wonderful.
it was not great. So, but what we've done with the silent film is it's Steamboat Bill Jr. with Buster Keaton.
Nice.
And we fly in an orchestra from Colorado, and they normally do the soundtracks for silent film
Yeah.
DVDs. And so we get a restored copy. We've got a live orchestra. We're in a big theater.
Oh,
it's
nice.
like you've recreated it right there.
That
Wow.
is fantastic.
That's a true event experience right there.
Yeah, it is. And I think films in general, when you see them at a film festival and you have, we'll have a guest filmmaker for almost every film, except Steamboat Bill Jr. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
got
that's a
Buster.
tough one.
yeah,
We
Buster's
can bust
gone.
out
Pick
with
him up.
We can get the Ouija board out.
Yeah. But it becomes a communal experience.
Yeah.
And you really, the most fun thing is to just sit in the audience and watch after a film, and nobody wants to leave the theater because they're talking about it.
Yeah.
So it erases all your boundaries. And it doesn't matter where you're from or what your background is or what your beliefs are. You've just had a shared experience, and now you're going to talk about it to your neighbor.
Yep.
And your neighbors are random. They're just random people.
People, yeah.
Yeah. So I love
Strangers in the theater.
that. Yes.
What a great experience, and what a great opportunity to bring a vast variety of things to Prescott that typically wouldn't be here. So over 12 years, and I did that without counting, 12 years of bringing this festival to Prescott. What an accomplishment.
Thank you.
Kudos to you and your husband.
So how do our listeners attend the festival? Where do they get tickets? Do they have to go tickets for the whole festival? Can they buy individual tickets? Can they tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. So you can buy an individual ticket. If you only care about fighting fires, you can get that one ticket.
Or them horse people.
Or them horse people, yeah.
I'm skipping that one. I'm not a horse people.
It's so
Go Wednesday night, where it's a horse movie without the horse people.
Well, no, if I was going, I would prefer to go Wednesday to hear the creator
speaker.
there.
The
Yeah.
That would
Q&A,
be
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. So you can get individual tickets. You can get a 10-pack, which is a discount of 10 films. You can get a Platinum Pass experience, which means you have we have a VIP director's loft upstairs in the balcony, and there's food there and snacks, and
Do they have duck wings?
they don't
No,
have, we are
okay.
not doing duck
No
wings.
spicy duck wings.
That is way too
Courtesy
spicy.
of the Raven Cafe, today's sponsor of the Mile High Show.
So, and you get reserved seats in the theater. There's little things, little cloth things they put over the seats to reserve them
Nice.
for you. And then we have, before the silent film, there's the Riverboat Bash, which is hors d'oeuvres and a couple of glasses of wine. And then you go in and you watch the
So
movie.
talking about making this a real event. That's
Yes.
the way to go.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
And where do they get them?
The website is PrescottFilmFestival.com. And there's a link. Every film has a link to the tickets. And the tickets are at Yavapai College, ycpac.com.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
they're Performing Arts Center box office as well, or just online?
The box office,
Box
yeah.
office
You-
as well. If you're in town and you want to drive over there.
Yeah.
And there's a link on the college YC.edu
there should be on there.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can. The box office opens the hour before each film,
Nice.
so you could just go early and.
But get them ahead of time.
Yeah.
Get your reserved spot. You don't want to get
Yeah.
out there and then find that that you got to sit next to Matt or me. That would
I'll
be
shower, maybe.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. We're coming up on the thing. Did you have
On
anything
what
else?
thing?
'Cause
I don't have anything
okay.
else.
I'm going to ask you, Helen, because I've already asked Matt.
Uh-oh.
He's been on many times. This is
So
something.
what you're saying is now I can go?
No,
All right, I'll see you later.
I try and ask my guests this, and then I always forget. But
Uh-oh.
it's perfect for here. Helen, they're making a movie about you. Keep that in mind. It's the Helen
gosh, yes,
Stephenson life story.
he started this with me. I hate this.
First off, who plays you?
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep.
Yeah,
What type of a film is it? What's the genre?
it is. So I'm writing this script right now. So
Are you okay?
Uh-oh.
Look out, Meryl. She's an avid listener of the Mile High Show, by the way.
Like Clue.
no, it's. Everyone that I tell stories about growing up on the border finds it fascinating. And I have these weird stories. And I'm one of 6 kids and amazing parents. And it's just kind of like, it's a little bit like Walton's, but we're on the border.
Gotcha.
And there's, and my dad read a book about that a border patrol officer wrote after he had been, resigned from the border patrol. And it's scary, the drug cartels, et cetera.
Oh, yeah.
And he said if he had known that was going on, he never would have raised his kids there.
Wow.
But we're out in the middle of 40 acres and never had
cushion.
any problem.
Okay, so this movie, it's a biography. Do you keep it in real time in the decades you were growing up? Do you make it a period piece? Does it take place in the future? You got some room to play?
No,
You're the producer.
I've already thought of this. I want it to be about 20 years earlier than
Okay.
when I
gotcha.
grew up because I just love the 40s and the 50s, especially the 1940s. I mean,
Yeah.
the hats, the brooches. Okay, I love old brooches. It's just adorable.
I was born in the mid 60s. When I picture myself when my parents were growing up for some reason, because those are the stories I grew up hearing as well.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so what's the soundtrack like? That's my next question.
Oh, I have not thought of that.
Okay.
Don't know.
Because we have seen this more and more in recent decades, in recent years, where a period piece, whether it be a Western or like Knight's Tale pops into my head, where it's set in the Middle Ages and they're using modern music. Or you'll watch a current film and they're using really retro period music and things. So again, you can mix it up a little bit. So start thinking about that, Helen. It's taking place in the 40s and 50s.
Gosh,
but is it a punk music going through there?
It's John Williams.
Okay, good. So traditional.
Yes.
Good.
Yes,
good.
John Williams all day. But
Very nice.
Speaking of that, I actually saw a film not long ago that it was a more serious period-centric film with rap.
Yeah.
And it just really did not work for me at all.
See, there are certain ways that it can really add to the movie that I've seen, and others where it just like clunk and you're not sure.
It just came out of nowhere. It's like, really? That doesn't make sense why that song's playing right now.
And you don't want to be taken out of the movie. I mean, that's what I tell the students.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, your audio better be good. You better, all the things we look at when we decide films and when we rate them. One of them is it taking you out of the story?
Yeah.
Because you get in there to be in that world and to experience that world. And if it's something wrong, it takes you out.
Well, you were talking about this in another interview other than ours. And I say
there are no other interviews. Other
yes,
than
sir.
ours.
Right away, sir. But no, and I say this to people all the time. If you walk out of the theater and a day or 2 days later you're still talking about that movie, you know it's a good movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's just a fact.
Yep. That's what Chess Story is.
Oh, fantastic. Anything coming up in the world of film that you're looking forward to, other than the Prescott Film Festival? Any movies that are in production or that are soon to be released, or anything out there that you're looking forward to seeing?
Well, I want to see Steven Spielberg's new film because he's, growing up in the city. He's a little bit older than me, but not that much. And it was in Phoenix, so I just want to experience that.
Nice.
Does he go to Legend City? That's what I want to know.
What are you looking forward to, Matt? Film buff who sees at least one movie a week?
There's not a big stuff. There's not a whole lot coming out, honestly.
Just in general.
So.
When's Avatar coming out?
Well, so I think that's coming out next summer.
Oh, jeez.
They're re-releasing the original this weekend for, I think it's an anniversary or something, but special showing Sunday and Monday onlys. And so I will probably be going to that, even though I'm not a super huge fan of Avatar. I mean, the world's cool. It's very pretty. The story is Dances with Wolves, but it is.
Oh, that was a magical thing that happened when we screened Dances with Wolves and the writer came up.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah, Michael Blake. He was pretty ill, but he still made the time to come up, and we put Dances with Wolves on the big screen, and he wanted to be here for it.
Nice.
It was beautiful.
I know that film gets a lot of flack in today's world. That's another one we do on the pod a lot, is when we do older films, is if you can make it today. And it's surprising.
Does it hold up? Yeah.
No, not it doesn't hold up. Is if you can make it today. There's stuff that, like Dances with Wolves, if you made it today, you would have to change a lot because a lot of people really hate that movie now because of what it was. It's the misrepresentation of the Native Americans is what a lot of people say now. Now, not then,
Right.
Yeah.
but
right.
now. And so that's some of the things. Like there's one we just did recently. We did Big Trouble in Little China. Fun, goofy 80s sci-fi. Could you make that today in the way they made it then? Probably not, because there's things that they do and say, stereotypes that back then was fine, and it was not fine, but it was just accepted. And now everybody is offended about everything.
Yeah.
I don't want to get political,
I'm
but
offended by that statement.
I'm offended by your smell.
That's actually the duck wings.
That's the ducklings. You're sweating them out now.
Again, Helen, where can they find information on the festival, and what are the dates?
PrescottFilmFestival.com, and it is September 27th to October 2nd.
Fantastic. I'm good. You good, Matt?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on, Helen, and chatting with us. This was a great experience. I know we took up a lot of your evening, but I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
It was
I
a lot
did
of
too.
fun. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
And thank you to the Raven, home of duck wings.
Korean barbecue duck wings.
Thank you for listening to The Real Film Nerds. Now, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Real Film Nerds. Now, go out and catch a movie.